So to fix these interior gaps, what we're going to do is give this a little bit of thickness. So this is just a complete planar surface, there's no depth to it. And then we'll go ahead and fill in those gaps there. So a good way to actually give this thickness is if we just add in a modifier. We'll do add modifier and we'll do solidify. So solidify essentially is going to give it thickness. So if I do display mode off, you'll see that we're getting a little bit of thickness. And with this solidify modifier, there's a couple of things that you want to be careful about. If I go into my wireframe mode, we'll see that we're adding depth here. And if I go ahead and just drag this thickness forward, you can see if we drag it too much, it'll get inverted on itself right here. And that's a really, really common problem. So you want to be really careful whenever you're doing this. You just kind of want to go through your model and check it out, make sure it's not too bad. So I'm going to do a value of 0.05, but you guys should look here and make sure you're just pushing it just far enough to where it doesn't actually invert on itself. Yours might be a little bit different. So at this point, we have our thickness, and, we have a separate piece of geometry in here that we can now collapse in here. So what we're going to want to do is apply this solidify. And what that does is going to make it now, we can actually perform modeling operations on top of this. So what we can do here is just come into our faces. I'm going to select this and go ahead and select the edge loop by alt clicking right here and just hit X and then delete faces. And then what we can do to the bottom is just go ahead and select these edge loops, alt click on there, hit X, delete faces. And now while we're hovering over this interior piece, we can just hit L, which will select everything that's linked. And then from there, we can do X, delete faces. Now we can essentially fill in these gaps here. So while I'm in edge mode, I'm going to jump into my edge mode, alt click to get these. And then what I want to do is fill these. So I can either right click and go to new face from edges, or I can just hit the hotkey F. And after we fill that, we want to insert a couple times. So I'm just going to go over to my insert, inset faces, and then push this down. And then after we have essentially a little bit of guaranteed flat areas here, we can then merge it. So usually I do at least one, and then I'll Alt M here and then merge as center. And the reason why we do that is so that whenever we have reflections or anything, that our topology is going to be reflective. It's not going to show any of those bumped edges like we talked about previous chapter. So from here, I'll just come in here and do the same thing. So I'll make sure it's a little tricky to get in here. Again, if you select an edge and do something like this where you just view selected, you can get in here a little bit easier like that. So I'm just view, tilde key view selected, and it's a little bit easier to work with. And I'm just going to alt click the edge there, and then we'll do the same thing. We'll just hotkey F to fill. We'll do our inset. The hotkey for that is going to be I. And I'll just do this a couple times. And then once we do at least once or twice, we can then do Alt M and then just merge at center. And then from here, what we can do is we can get this smoothed out, and then we're going to do that in the next chapter.